Hey, what's going on, guys? Legends recap for this past Tuesday. It was. Um, if you remember where we left off, was Gon had shown up to presumably take me in or something like that, and then Mitsukaro comes from behind and stabs him with this terrible like lava-looking thing and burns him from the inside out. Um, we come to find out that Mitsukaro was the traitor in our ranks, and that's where I started off. So the first thing I do is I kind of go into the thing that I had talked about last week, and I was like, Mitsukaro, can I talk to you for a second? Like, no stalling, like no hidden plans or anything like that. It's just like this, something here doesn't make sense, and that's where like Emrys kind of gives that speech about like listen, you're oh, and I was like you're trading a kingdom for one that's promised. Like that, it's like why? Like that doesn't make any sense. Like if it's bigger, like let's say it's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50% bigger, it's like you've already built a kingdom in a sense. And she's like, "Are you negotiating with me?" I was like, "Not even really. Like, it's not even that. It's just more. It's more like seeking to understand uh, how this could happen to you of all people." And Emrys kind of went on to say, like, "Listen, you're not like of the blood or anything. Like, you're not like a highborn or anything like that. Um, but you you basically raised yourself up to the position where you are the warden of a planet. Um, you control an army. You have like generally like the love of your people and everything like that. Like you have the love and respect of your people. Um, and it's something that you had to get through ambition, like through power, through work, like a dedication, but also like through a certain level of compassion. And like all those things together, like it seems like it's a lot harder to fake all of that than it is to and then to basically fake all that, to build all of that up, to only toss it aside because something was promised to you. And that's like he said something along the lines of like, right now it's like you answer to Makoto, it's like you go to the Empire, it's like you just answer to Nairobi, like you're still, nothing really changes. And beyond that, which is even worse, like in Emerson's eyes, is like this promised kingdom that you've been promised, is like it's something that you're gonna step into, whereas where you are right now is something that you've built. Like you don't you don't create loyalty out of thin air. Like you don't create an army loyal to you out of thin air. You don't create a people that love and respect you just by showing up. It's like there's work associated with that. Like there's and that's like that was like the whole confusion thing. Like I mean, like yeah, like ambition will take you so far, and maybe she is still ambitious for something more, something bigger, and something better. But it was just like it didn't make sense from the perspective of building all that up just to toss it aside for the chance at an upgrade. And it's like I said, it's not to say that where she was right now is she had peaked her station by any means. So it was kind of a weird like side grade, but also like a downgrade because you're trading in like that loyalty and everything like that you had established for a new people or anything. And I understand like if you were like born and raised in the empire and like serve an emperor in Nairobi. I could understand that. I was like, but from what I understand, like you're an outsider looking for a way in, and I was like, unless like there's something with his ideology, which seems to be like mass slavery and stuff like that. It's like It seems like you're on the, I don't want to say the wrong side of history or anything like that, but just like if that's like, if that's your rallying call, like your champion cause is enslaving as many people as possible, then yeah, I guess we're at an impasse, and like I kind of understand it. Like you're, but it's like nothing about her up until that point. Like, there was no like cracks that were ever shown that would like lead someone to believe that. And Emma said something along the lines of like, listen, it's like if something ever showed up like on your doorstep, as like, you could have called on me and I'd have been there for you. And it's like, that kind of loyalty isn't given, as like, it's earned. And I was like, and Everest is like, well, he's like, I was like, maybe not so much now after this whole like betrayal thing, but and she's like, you give me the girl, and I was like, I'll explain it to you. I'll tell you. And I was like, okay, that's fair. I was like, I you just like one shot a Super Saiyan 3, and I don't, like I said, it's one of those ones where it's gonna be a freaking, it'd be an uphill battle. Like, if when you're fighting like when you're fighting up a level, like, you need at least that 2v1 there, I feel like. And even like the 2v1 is, let's say that you need 2 to 3v1. Like, if you have like two decent twos, or three decent twos, it it's like, this isn't a layup by any means. Like, this is a fight for your life, where there's a good chance one or both of you will die. And that's what I was telling the DM afterwards. Like, we were going through some like things about some like, I don't say ratings, but like, what would you give people, like different combos, like out of 10 fights, how many do they win? And I was like, it was like, I think it was like the Mitsukaru thing with Kato. I was like, maybe like 40-50%, like, and that's like a big if, because we don't know a lot about Mitsukaru. It's like, yeah, like there's a chance, because Kato and Emrys are kind of a vicious combo and everything like that when it comes to like fighting up. But yeah, like at this point, Emrys does not have the tools, the personnel, or anything like that to fight up. He doesn't have his weapons, he doesn't have his armor, nothing like that. So we're definitely about it. So I get this message inside my suit that it's from the Nebula Hammer saying, "Be ready for pickup," and I'm like, okay, that's unfortunate, because this was like more the negotiating thing, and apparently she picks up on it or something like that, because I never did anything like to acknowledge it or anything like that. But she like rips the helmet off and flings it off, and she starts taking me out. Like, she has me by the wrist, and she has like a really tight grip on me, because she's a freaking Super Saiyan 3 and I'm a Super Saiyan 2. And we get outside, and there are these 5 Saiyans. There's 4 2s and 1 3, and they're like, some like a little. I was a little bit out of order. It was about the amount of time that passed between that message and us going outside, because it wasn't immediate. And so I'm faced with and they've got like these nice, like these cool looking tech looking armor, and these I think they had the full helmets on, yeah. And they've got like this, I think 4 of them have this red palm, like this bloody palm, like, I mean, like, it's paint, I think, on their armor, like, kind of signifying their who they were, like. And I come to find out later, it's like, I think they're like a mercenary group. But anyway, 4 of them were that, 2 of them were not. And Emrys is confronted with the possibility that either they are here to help him or here to take him in. And here's where like the thing kind of gets confusing, because it's like, Emrys is solo out here, assuming like there's any kind of intel as to what has happened. Tetsu blew himself up. Emrys is like way off on his own, and they only have Pan. So why? Like, and Mitsukaru just like literally one shot gone, who is another Super Saiyan 3. So it's like, why? Why are these like mercenary looking people out here to help her? The other possibility exists that this Blood Hand group is maybe associated with High Castle in some way, and that's the pickup that was referred to. Uh, yeah, so like there's, in retrospect, like yeah, maybe it made a little more sense, maybe it didn't, but anyway, like there's supposed to be a pickup coming, and Mitsukaru is like power down. So I start to like slowly power down, and I'm like, yeah, it's like, what? It's like you brought all this just for me, like like doing a joke because like I'm hoping like I can catch some kind of crack in her armor where it's like no, these people aren't with me. Like no, she obviously wouldn't say that, but like these people aren't with, like if I could pick up something where she would have any kind of action that would suggest these people aren't with her, and that like she wants to basically, if I power down, because she's like got to the point where she could like probably break or snap my wrist, um, but it's like if I power down, like at that point I'm completely useless. Like I'm I'm a hostage that can be taken and killed in a moment's notice. I mean, I can already probably be like pretty close to that, just because she already murked gone like that. But it's just like the possibility of anything happening just completely vanishes. So I wrestled with that decision for a not a for a bit, just trying to like figure out what way to go, because on the one hand, if I power, like I said, I explained it to DM, I was like, if they're there with Mitsukaru, like me powering down doesn't matter. It's like that fight was already over before it started. But if they're there on someone else's behest and they're like the pickup that was referred to, then then I become like an active detriment to that process. So I did what all good good logistics and statistician people do, is I flipped a coin, and so I was like, okay, I'm assuming they're there to help in some way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to get myself away from Mitsukaro before she breaks my hand or breaks my wrist. I bring out my metallic armor, which I'm starting to find is everything, at least for at the level that I'm at right now. The amount of durability it adds to me is, even in its like lower level and everything like that, like it's like more basic form, is because I did use like that big gift I think the DM had given us for it, so like maybe that's why it got like pretty decent. But man, like it has paid dividends. I managed to get it around my wrist, and at the same time, I brought the Harlequin mask out, and before I could finish getting the mask out, because that mask does take like that split second to bring out, and freaking super, like things are so fast. Uh, and she was so close that she basically appears in front of me and she blows this stuff into my face. And before I can even like hold my breath or anything like that, it like goes inside of my nose and my mouth and it starts to burn. We're gonna long story short this. It's the worst thing that's ever happened to my character. Um, I come to find out later it was like these uh, glass shards, which kind of makes sense with like the lava and the theme that she was going for. But like there was something much worse to it, and like you're like my character's just writhing in pain. Like try I can't even. It just keeps getting worse and worse to the point where I started to lose sense of reality. Uh, like I can't activate any abilities or anything like that. Like it's just like the whole process was like completely completely disabled me, and would have proved otherwise fatal. And like the deal was basically explaining that like I'm just begging like for a rock nearby that I can knock myself out with it because the pain is that bad. And I feel like everything I just described to you still understated how bad the DM said it was. One of the like I said, I kind of like I'm slipping in and out of consciousness. It's not even in and out of consciousness. It's more like in and out of like perception of like the world around me, and the thing is spreading throughout my body, like, you know, from my core out to my limbs and everything like that, and it's just worse and worse, and like I'm just like letting out these terrible screams and cries, and the people around me aren't coming to help. So guess what? They were all there for me, and I flipped wrong. Um, yeah, that sucked. The last thing I see is a charred Gon, like attacking Mitsukaru somehow. No idea how, because we all thought he was dead. And somehow they get me aboard the ship in that that moment or something like that. I don't even know what happened. Like, 'cause I think I had saw black, and I wake up in the ship a couple of times. I'm like in and out of consciousness, and somehow or another they managed to get the stuff out of me. I come to find out that it was like using my med bay, and then using our Pan was there, and I think it was like Saya that was helping out. Like Saya, using her sensory abilities, was like able to sense out like where these shards were and like where they were spreading from, and kind of like Tony Stark me with it when it came to the shrapnel that was all through my body. So I wake up, sadly not in bed, but being drugged by the hair. Through my ship with alarms going off and there being some damage to the ship from what I've seen. So it's just like, oh my gosh, like, well, we got caught again. But on the bright side, that pain seems like it's gone. So whatever they did, they managed to get this thing out of me. But my body is kind of a wreck, and like I'm at not like there's no discernible power level that I have, and I feel like that I'm like still vastly like I'm very injured. Like just like I like it. They didn't say this, but like I've had a kidney stone, and I liken it to that feeling afterwards, where it's like even after you pass it, like it feels everything just feels absolutely terrible, because there was this shard that was passed through. And I was just like, that's that. Like at least that's how I kind of rationalize it. Only probably on a much worse scale because she did something to those shards. Like there was a technique with it, and we get tossed out of or I get tossed out of the ship, and I'm kind of like playing dead there for a second, just because like unconscious, and Pan is out there, so is Sai and Rohan, and it's the people that those blood hand people I had talked about. Like there's the three, and then there's the 4-2s, and so like they're talking like, you know, they got the girl, and it's like, well, maybe we should take in the highborn one, as like he might prove to be a valuable target, and so it's just like I kind of I ascertained the situation, and I was like, all right, DM, I picked myself up, and this three was like, I was wondering if you're gonna play dead there, and I was like, listen, I was like I was like, listen, after what I've just been through, I was like, there's no playing to it. I was almost there. It's just like at this point, like we're in the, you know, like there's the whole isometric, the run talk fight kind of thing. It's like there's no way to run. Like Emerus's power is way too low, and all these people are powered up and everything like that. There's the talking phase, which is where we're in right now, and if we're in the fighting phase, it's game over. Because good lord, like you know, Emerus versus a 3 and 4-2s with Pan backing him up is a tall order. Um, is like it's a that's a one win out of 100 situation. Emerus at 0% power doing that, it's like that's just like it's a 0 out of 100. Like you get no diff. Like that's a wrap. So it's like, yeah, we don't fight this, and we don't do anything possible to provoke them into fighting this. And one of the guys is like shoving me around a little bit and everything, and he shoves me down, and it's like, you're not used to getting shoved. They're not used to being on the ground or something like that. Are you, Highborn? And I was like, man, I don't know about you, but I've lost a lot of fights in my day. Like, Everest is not like the, for as talented as he is and everything like that, like Everest has gotten knocked down a lot, and other people, like the reason he's come out of fights with wins has largely been like other people there helping them. But he's also fought some pretty vicious opponents, so it's like to him, like, so it's like kind of one of those ones like, yeah, listen, guys, like, yeah, I've been knocked out before. They mentioned something about taking the girl, which would be Pan, and Rohan's like, you won't lay a hand on her. And I was like, and Everest put his hand up, like, whoa, Rohan, like, you need to stop that, like, right now. Like, now's not the time to act tough. Now's the time to negotiate for our lives. Uh, the one guy, like, keeps bullying me, and he keeps, like, taunting me with, like, the whole Highborn thing. And it's just like, I can't do anything. Like, he's a 2, and I'm in, like, normal, but I'm also insanely weak. Like, maybe if I burst out my power, if I had power, like, I could stop him a little bit, but then they would just, like, all gangbang and kill me instantly. So, like, there's no easy solution to that. They, he keeps, like, kind of roughing me up a little bit, and I should have picked up on this earlier, because the whole Highborn thing is something it's in the past, and he eventually, like, throws some dirt on me. Like, it's kind of like the insult thing is he knocked me down, and then he reaches down and, like, shoves my face in the dirt, and then shoves some dirt in my mouth, and it's just like, man, the freaking disrespect. And then I feel something weird in the dirt, and I feel like there's a finger that shoved it in there, and it was a sensu bean, and I'm just like, oh shoot, like, I there was so much going on at the time. It's like one of those ones in retrospect. Um, so what I had thought had happened was something different that actually happened, but I still guessed right what something like that, and that was that Kato was somehow out here. Kato does this weird thing where he hides in the ground sometimes. So I was like, oh, like, did Kato somehow find me and is there ready to ambush? And, like, he was underground, and it was like just everything that was happening I missed a little bit. But what it was is, I come to find out, Kato had infiltrated this mercenary group, because Kato is a mercenary. And I guess when he had found out, again, like, this is kind of jumping ahead, when he had found out that that they had taken, or they were after me, it's like he signed on with this crew, and was like, because, like, this crew was recruited to find me, and he's like, oh man, like, my pal Emrys might need some help. Let me go see what he's doing, or maybe I can go shove some dirt in his mouth, because that's, like, a very Kato thing to do. So, sense of being in the mouth, I kind of, like, cough and spit out some dirt, and I explained to the DM, I was like, listen, this is the most important thing I ever do in my life, is I move the sensu bean to the left side of my mouth, and I spit out the dirt, but I make sure not to spit out the sensu bean. And even in my weakened state, I thankfully managed to accomplish it. And all the while we've been talking, the Super Saiyan 3 dude has been coughing a bit, and he said, like, he's talking about how the something in his environmental suit must have ruptured, or must have got damaged in the little scuffle that happened earlier. And it's like, okay, like, I didn't think much of it. Like, maybe, because I was thinking about it, and I was like, maybe there was something where, like, with the plan, I don't know, like, I feel like he was a Saiyan. I'm pretty sure, yeah, I'm like 99% sure he was a Saiyan, and he was a 3. I'm not, because, like I said, I'm trying to think if it's like the DM was like he sensed like a 3, because I was like, if he was an alien, like, maybe something in the atmosphere, but if he's a Saiyan, I don't know why he was struggling in this atmosphere, because, like, like I said, just Emrys missing something in the moment. We'll fast forward a little bit here. The guy's coughing gets worse and worse, and he's like, kill the other 2, take the girl, take the Highborn in, and Emrys just like, no, don't do that. And then he starts to cough, like, really bad, and I come to find out that Kato had sabotaged his suit's, like, life support, but also poisoned him, and, like, his power, like, whatever it was, the poison had finally, like, kind of gotten through his power and everything like that, and was, like, dropping his power immensely. So, like, there's the window, there's the time, crunch, goes the sensu bean. And what I had said is like leading up to this is like Emrys kind of forms this defensive stance of like, because like the other guy's just kind of roughing him up, and like Emrys can barely defend himself. But what he was doing is like, like the boxer has his hands up and everything like that over his face to protect his face and his midsection, is he was actually like locking his arms together for that Kaioken style thing he has with the tattoo. And I was like, DM, when the moment arrives, I crunch the sensu bean, and as soon as that rush of power hits, I let rip like the largest Kaioken I can to jump my power as far as possible, because it's still it was about to be a 5v2, and this is when I thought Kato was heading into into the ground, because I was like, but it was later a 3v2, which made it a lot more reasonable. Oh, excuse me. Oh my goodness, sorry about that. No, maybe it was more than that. Whatever it was, I think Kato was fighting 4 people at one time. Maybe the DM missed something there, because I was thinking because it was 4 2s and 1 5 and 1 3, and the 1 3 died, and Kato was one of the things. So that was 3, but I know we fought, I think, 4 opponents. I think we'll get to that when I get to that. That guy's power is drop. The sensu bean crunches. The rush of power goes there, and Emrys kind of like lets out this like roar and roars out his power at the same time, and like everyone kind of like is taken back, and oh, that's okay. So yeah, so Kato launches like the one guy, or I think like the guy Kato is closest to, gets like launched into orbit, I think through a lightning strike, and then he does something else, and like it sends a couple other people flying away pretty far. And so Emrys is there. He looks back to like his 2 people and or 3 people, they're okay. He looks to Kato and the 3, and is like, he, like let me go kill the 3. And the 3's like already dead and dying, and like might be dead right now. So it's like, okay, there's still 4 2s out there that we got to deal with, and it's definitely go time. And Emrys is like insanely angry at all. It's like he's definitely fueled by rage at this point, and and Kato takes off towards the nearest one, which is the most powerful one, and Emrys starts to follow him. And as we're going, like Kato veers off and like kind of leaves this guy to Emrys, which is just like, he's the strongest one, man. Like I don't even know how good a fighting shape I'm gonna be in. Like sensu bean aside, that stuff tore me up on the inside. The DM is like, there is like that aching pain in there, and I was like, all right, DM. Like I didn't tell the DM this, but like it's like my thought process was like, if I could just fuel Emrys with like enough rage that like he'll just kind of, I don't want to say power through it, but like in a sense power through it, and like maybe push aside some of that, like even if it like damages him, like because like at this point, like if he doesn't take these people out, like it's still gonna be a rappy for all of them. And that's like assuming Mitsukaru doesn't show up, because like the hope is like we can deal with these people, because they would be able to chase us and anything like that. I think there is a ship nearby that they have, which we will later find out about. So Emrys goes to this guy, and he feels like he's summoning this massive amount of energy, and he harnesses it down into a weapon. And so Emrys like forms 5 pillars, and he starts trailing them behind him as he's flying full speed at this dude. And he has like this golden staff that he's formed out of energy. Emrys does his Mad Bomber routine, where he literally just charges the guy, armors up, and goes to like lay a kind of like massive blow on him. And then what he does is, when he goes to land the blow, because like there's that momentum stop just from like the hit, is he's gonna have the 5 pillars collapse on top of himself, and then he'll be the epicenter for the bomb. Because that's something he can do is like if he's inside the pillar when it detonates, like he doesn't get messed up, but like it just kind of like his energy amplifies because like they're basically shape charges in a sense. That he gets to that he can use like in a variety of ways. Uh, and so he does the thing. The guy blocks his blow with the staff, but he doesn't block the explosion. And well, he does block the explosion. Like he is his staff is doing something weird where it's like capturing the energy and but it's like it's pushing him back. So so like there's and the energy released from five pillars is substantial to the point where it changes the area of the planet that it happens on. Like the whole the terrain is like completely different. It's like a giant meteor hits it kind of thing. So he's getting pushed back as Embers is just like letting out this wave of power, and I realize like he's capturing some of the energy ball, and like kind of concentrating it. So what Emrys does is turns on his defensive matrix, which is the thing that absorbs energy, and he does a couple flash steps to get to the side of him, and he's gonna punch him. It's just like you said, at this point, like it's not about like the big. Or it's not about like the sharp blows or like this. Like Everett just wants to like punch through this guy's face. Like he's like in that, I guess you'd call it like a Saiyan rage kind of state where it's just like kind of thing going on. And the DM is like, if you punch him with like this hard and it connects, like there's a possibility you knock him out of the explosion. It's like, all right, we don't do that, DM. And I'm trying to remember if I tried like punch. I think I punched him. I gave him like more of one of those buckle punches where you're like looking to buckle him over your fist, and it did so somewhat. Like it was like obviously the guy is a two, and he was the most powerful of the group, so it wasn't like it just completely buckled him, but like it definitely threw him off. And then I grabbed him and grappled him, and the guy's like, "You're insane," because like now we're both because he had when I had done this, he's calling the ball that concentrated ball of energy down on top of me, but it's gonna be us because I'm gonna have a hold of him. And the guy's like, "You're like the guy has like that you're insane look to him." As far like it's just like like why would you be like at the epicenter of this blast? But that's where the armor and defensive matrix comes in. The matrix actually gets overwhelmed because I was like it was so like it was one of those ones like the matrix was so close to holding, and the way the matrix works is this is something I didn't realize is if it does pop, if it does overwhelm, I lose the ability to channel in the next strike. Because my thought was is like hopefully because like I think if it was just my energy, if it wasn't like something he was redirecting and doing something to it, I might have been able to contain it. Because like my thought was the next strike is going through his head because we're basically plummeting to the ground at this point. It's like DM, we're hitting the ground hard. Like I'm trying to like get it where I can maybe get on top of him and just like punch through him because whatever like I was thinking like it's gonna be like one of those capped out things, and oh, that was the other thing is I had realized that I realized the gap between myself with the armor and without, that there was a couple of things in that fight that would have gone like completely different because the DM didn't I don't think he remembered or realized when I had said I had brought it out at the beginning, and it's just like there was just like those kind of like little hints dropped of like the being able to overpower him and everything like that would just probably wouldn't have happened like where he was in power. So it's like it's another one of those things because I mean it's constitution magic. It's like that's the thing what Everest does, and it's like it's a strength and durability boost, but it's mainly a durability boost. But it is still a strength boost. But yeah, like some of the things would have gone very different without the armor. So that's why I said like that thing paid dividends in this fight. So we were like crashing towards the ground, and we both kind of from the explosion that popped the bubble, we both kind of got flung away. But it was just enough to pop the bubble and not really damage me too much. Well, I got the armor. The armor actually absorbed a brunt of it too. Like so, I basically had two defensive layers, and it completely shattered the first defensive layer, and it damaged the second. But it wasn't like it didn't mess me up too bad. Whereas the other guy had none of that, and he got messed up really bad to the point where he's unconscious. And So at that point, I was like, all right, we need to end this quick with this guy. DM, I'm gonna go over and I'm gonna try to just try to like snap his neck and everything like that. Like we need to get over because it was at this point I sensed that Kato was fighting. I want to say the DM said four other people, but there should have only been three, I think. But there could have been another person out there because there was also a ship at some point that was being piloted. That because like that was the other thing is I think while this was happening, the ship was taking off and it was engaging. It was like bombarding this other ship, which I'm assuming is the mercenary ship. So there's a possibility that there was more people on board this. I felt Kato like one of the people's like Kato's power is dropping, and I felt one of the people's power dropped dramatically to the point where Kato probably killed him. So I think Kato was fighting three at that point, and two took off after the ship, and one was left with Kato. And again, these numbers might be a little incorrect, but you'll get the general vibe of the fight as we go here. Because I know there's two that definitely take off after the ship, and I think Kato was left with one more. So I get to the guy, and I grapple him up, and he kind of comes to, and he starts, he starts resisting and everything like that, and we kind of like have it out. But he got like his power got dropped by around 50% from being at the epicenter of that blast. And I think that's the way like the whole saying things works is your power level can get knocked down from, and that's the kind of what I'm gathering from blast and from like massive strikes like that is you still have that power like as far as the depth of it goes, but like your actual power level, how high up you are, can get knocked down from devastating blows in a sense. So like his got knocked down by 50%, which is something I've found those pillars are really good for freaking doing, is knocking that kind of stuff down if that can get the hits off, and I can like use them in ways to actually get the hits off. So we wrestle, like we're wrestling it out, like he's there like elbowing my side like really really hard, but it's like I still have the armor up, and it hurts just because everything in my body hurts at this point. So like Everest is just like, DM, I try to push that rage further. It's just like he lets out one of those like primal screams and just like and flares out his power, tries to like boost his power up even further, and this shockwave of wind just like clears and this is one of those ones like I realize like just where they are as far as like when twos fight and everything like that is Embers cleared the cloud cover when he snapped this dude's neck. Like the clouds overhead, everything like that, just whoosh off to the side, like in the sky and everything like that. The shockwave of wind that came off it, because like that's two super beings doing it. Like you see like the Superman fights in the what's it called, the Justice League Unlimited series, everything like that. Like you get a feel for like some of the shockwaves that come off, and it was a nice touch from the DM. It was like as far as like understanding the just the force that went behind it. So his body drops, and Everest just rockets off after the two that are chasing after his ship. Apparently, the crew of his ship, which would be Pan, Rohan, and Saya, managed to take out the other ship that's out there. Because my ship is kind of everything. Like I put my ship versus a mercenary ship, like versus most mercenary ships, like 9 times out of 10 we pull that out. Now the fact that it was the three of them piloting it, Rohan's actually kind of like a genius. I've been coming to find out, like he's kind of a tech genius. Like the dude's got like some really high intelligence when it comes to just all things machinery, like kind of a savant when it comes to that kind of stuff, beyond the whole like weapons crafting. Like weapons crafting is a passion, but like it seems like he's just been exposed to a lot of stuff, and he also is like really ambitious when it comes to familiarizing himself. So I'm sure like he spent some time in my ship familiarizing himself. Anyway, whether or not it was just the ship's upgrades, or if it was Rohan's talent, or if it was a combination of the two of those plus like Pan. Oh, Pan's also like military, so she might have some experience too with that kind of thing. So yeah, whatever it is, they managed to blow the mercenary ship out of the sky, and Everest gets to the next guy, and it's just like he's like aura roaring, like just furious, and like the guy like kind of looks up, he looks down. I think that was whenever like one of the powers dropped off, and he realized that Kato had killed the last guy, or had at least disabled him, and Everest like kind of points to him, and he's like, he's like, you can run and live, he said, or you can die. And it's just like the guy like kind of slowly puts up his hands like he doesn't want it. And Emerson's getting ready to take off to the ship, and Kato rockets off in this bolt of lightning, and like Chidori style stabs him through the chest with this lightning bolt. And like the only reason Emrys gave him that option was the fight would take longer and the ships were getting further away. Maybe they hadn't blown up the ship yet. Spoiler alert: the Nebula Hammer, which is Emrys' ship, blows up the other ship. So whether or not they had or not, but it was what it was is I know there was at least one more two that was chasing the ship. And I was thinking, like, if he could get on board or get through the shields or anything like that, like, and get inside, he would wreak havoc on my crew. So I got to get up there as fast as possible, giving this guy a chance to live or at least get out of my way. And the poor guy, like, he felt like, I don't know if he saw like his friend's neck get like snapped and like the force, or even like the destructive wave, because like that was something where like I could even sense, like the DM had mentioned, like that the planet was basically changed by the two fights that occurred down there, Kato's and Emrys's. But I think Emrys is definitely the more wide scale destruction one, whereas like Kato's, and I was talking to the DM a little bit later, Kato is like very vicious in his like 1v1s or his ability to kill people. Like he's more like, I don't say he's like an assassin type, but he's like he's very good at killing blows or producing killing blows, I guess is a good way to put it. From at least my experience with things. The fights that I've been in with him. Emrys is very good at knocking people down to make those killing blow happen. Like he's very good at like shit, like I guess like what it amounts to is like there's those like Mitsukaru Gon gaps where it's like you can just like one shot them with a technique even though they're both at full power. But like if you can, like if Emrys can land the pillars, like those one shot techniques become so much easier to pull off, like from Kato's perspective, because like that power has been knocked down, whether it's their speed, whether it's their just overall power, defenses, and durability. Like Emrys like sets him up and Kato knocks him down, kind of thing. Now Emrys can like do some killing blows on his own, as we'll come to find out. So Emrys Kato killed that guy. Emrys runs over, grabs the body because he realizes he needs the helmet to go into space at this point. Like even at 2, I think it's like 4s for sure can usually self sustain themselves in space. 3s I think still need suits. Well, apparently they did because the other dude had a suit down there, and he was a 3. And then there's some special stuff you can take that allow you to stay in space for some time. But yeah, at the level we're at right now, like I need a suit to be in space. And I had whenever I had told the guy you can you can run and live or you can die, or like you can die right here, I had summoned 10 pillars out slowly, like kind of like that intimidation thing, because like I think these are just like they're normal Saiyans. I don't think they're arcanes or anything like that. And also like Everest has that there is something to being highborn. Like there is, you know, the three of us, like the Dakawan, Mira, and I, like we hit Super Saiyan much earlier than most people ever do. We've ascended much faster than other people. Like so, like I think there is something to being like that highborn kind of thing, or like at least having like that powerful parentage or bloodline. So like these might just be like some normal Saiyans out here. So like they, I think that guy might have realized that like, oh, like shoot, like even in like the weakened state, like this dude is kind of scary. And Everest has been in some life or death fights, so it's like yeah. Anyway, I had summoned 10 pillars, which was twice as many as I used to kill the last guy, and I think that was like a intimidation technique maybe that worked out, that paid off. Anyway, the guy still died, and so Everest went over and took his helmet, and Kato's like, yeah, wrap this up, kind of thing, and so I think Kato went to find like another helmet or something like. No, he had a helmet on or something like that. I don't know what happened to Kato. Kato was messed up from that fight, so he probably took a second to get his win. So I passed him like some healing crystals real quick. I didn't think you were leaving me with those for so long. And I was like, I felt bad at first, and then like the DM like thankfully reminded me, he's like, player, you did go after like the strongest one. And I was like, oh right, DM. Yeah, I have an excuse then. Like, because I was thinking like maybe I should have burnt the Harlequin one. And I was like, yeah, you got it, bud. And I was like, thanks, man. And I just take off. Like I give him like my first of many thanks for like saving my life here. Um, and this guy, I go up there to the ship, and he's charging up this weird looking blast, and it seems like, I don't know if you guys remember. I think it's like the Gogeta thing where he has like those weird sparkles in the key, like it's ultra concentrated. And I was just like, oh shoot, like he's gonna shoot this at my ship. So I start channeling up my new like we'll call it like ultimate technique, and I informally call it like the House of Mirrors, because what it does is I summon pillars and then I rotate them around me, and then I very very fast and I feed them into like a very concentrated wave style blast. Because like I said, that's something I realized Everest is kind of lacking after the Makoto fight, is that either like beam fight or that like finisher style blast. And it's something I had worked like 6 months on to kind of try. But here we're gonna put practice into action. Um, so he turns towards me, and he was still like forming it up, and I already had my pillars out, so I was like, oh, like, so I didn't have to go through that, and I started charging mine up, and we do the beam battle thing, whereas his the way it works is it lets out a massive wave of energy. It's not like a Kamehameha so much, whereas like usually the Kamehameha is like that first blast. And what I kind of found out is mine's the same way, where it's that first big blast, but then I can keep pouring energy into it, but it's nowhere near as potent as the pillar energy. Like it's just more like my own personal reserves and my own personal key destructiveness. Now, Emrys is like kind of a vicious key user. Like that is his strongest point. But we battle it out, and the initial thing kind of puts him on the defensive, and then Everest just starts like pouring everything that he has into it. Like at this point, like I said, like I was kind of like playing up the whole idea that Everest is just kind of like consumed by rage when it comes to these people, and just like flaring out power, pouring it into it, kind of like an epic moment, at least in my eyes, the way it played out. And the blast like slowly starts to like you could just see like the guy's initial blast, like they were actually pretty even. Like his was very concentrated and everything like that, but because of like Emrys's reserves at this point, and like I said, like there's a wide gap between where twos exist. Like a fresh two versus like a long form two, and I'm not even long form, but like even within those gaps, like there's wide swaths of like power difference, and even like this like the whole highborn things come to play, because like that's something I was realizing like with Dakowon, the way he sensed it three, it's like he's a highborn three, and it's like there's definitely like an extra viciousness to it, because that gap seems so wide. It's like thinking back to like the Quintus fight and everything like that. It's like, did the gap seem that wide back then? I don't know, like because Dakowon was like a pretty fresh three at this point, so it's like there might be like there definitely probably is something to like the whole lineage thing, and just like the whole if you like remember like the DBZ, like the Goku versus Vegeta thing. Now Goku was always kind of like a special case, but like Vegeta, I think always had that idea of being highborn carried him a lot further, and it seems like there's a little bit more of an impact here, at least inside this world. Anyway, sorry take away from the epic beam battle. Just Emma's pouring out so much power and so much into it. The guy gets like blasted away into who knows where. Um, and yeah, that's kind of a wrap for the fight. We get up to the ship. I think like Raw, it's like identify yourself, and everyone's just like hits me, and we get let in. I was like, oh, and Kato, and we get let in. I'm gonna like kind of there's a lot of conversation that happened here, but I'll try to fill it in pretty quick. They get inside the ship, and Emerson is just like grateful to Kay. It's like Kay's like, man, you saved my life, kind of thing. Like I owe you big. And he's like, yeah, you do. And there's a lot of talk, and I'm just gonna skip around here a little bit. Like there's a lot of talk back and forth about what's going on, what each of them knows, and what's going on within the Republic and Makoto's territory and everything like that. And Cato provides some interesting insight to it, where this one of the things he mentions is like this maneuver that the originators are pulling seems very much like a pull up stakes and get out kind of thing. Like there was apparently like there's at least speculating like that there was some kind of deadline involved, or there was some sort of event or catalyst that happened that forced this move, and that after this like they'll likely be pulling up stakes and getting out. So that opens up the possibility that like for Pan, she's just got like now it might take 6 months, it might take a year, just for all the territories to kind of like pull out or anything like that. Whatever it is, like it's not going to be like a weekend deal, but like it definitely seems like more of a final move than it does a continued operation inside this space. So that adds a little bit of a bright side to the Pan situation, where she might not have to be permanently removed from where she is and like the people that she likes and everything like that. Yeah, so there's that. Emrys kind of fills Cato in with all the stuff that's happening with High Castle. Emrys tries to betray Cato, or Cato tries to betray Emrys and like shooting with an electric thing, because Emrys is talking about like the whole. He's like, man, this is so far above my pay grade. He's like, I don't deal in like this political stuff and the Empire versus or Republic and the double crosses and triple crosses. And then Cato's like, well, there's one more cross. And he like does his finger gun of electricity, and like it fizzles out like halfway between the two of them. And he's like, if that had hit you, it was a wrap. And I was like, man, at this point, I was like, I'd let you have it, because it's like. I was like, this has been a terrible time all around. Like this isn't Emrys's wheelhouse. This isn't his thing. Like he'll go out there and like say like and clean up the community or fight some monsters or hit who needs hit. Like he's not out here to figure out who's double crossing who and who's on what side and everything like that. It's like there's a guy, he needs hit, I go hit him. That's the Emrys solution to the problem. And so they're kind of like having a little back and forth, and like Saya comes around and gets some food. Um, and like Kato's still like kind of like ribbing Saya, form up girl, pretty hard. And I was just like, part of me wants to stand up for her, but I was like, Kato just saved everyone's life, so I'm gonna let him go do his thing. Like, listen, man, like we'd all be dead if it wasn't for you. Like, so you do you Kato it up as much as you want, and then we'll let this one slide. Um, the the hilariously terrible moment was we were talking about like the Tetsu, the bomb situation, the ships. And I was like, yeah, like I feel like there was at least like 70, if not like 100 or 200 ships that he took out by like basically putting out that beacon, or not. It wasn't. I don't know if it was a beacon, but so much as it was like a way for them to like track them. And Kato's like is like, yeah, all that for Pan's like, what's so special about her? I was like, oh, she has the helix thing and everything like that. And then he's like, oh, because I thought she was like maybe like Nairobi's daughter or something like that. And I laughed like like it's ridiculous. And then Kato laughed, and Emrys kind of like shared this laugh, and then like both the character and the player, that laugh just slowly erodes as like a couple things click into place. And I was just like, DM, there was a lot of ships out there for her, like a lot of ships. And what obviously like the whole idea that it's Nairobi's daughter was like a crack, just because he's the most notable figure over there. But Pan has to be someone who's really important to the Empire, whether or not like it is what Kato said. I really hope it isn't. She definitely is somebody, because there was a lot of freaking ships out there looking for her. It wasn't like, oh, there's one premiere out here, we need to get her, because like that's something you send a squad, or you send like a small squadron of ships to collect, especially someone who's like at Super Saiyan 1 level and only being guarded by at most two twos, because like Tetsu was a 2 and I was a 2. If you send a squadron, you send like 6-8 ships out there, you're good to go. But there was a lot more than that. So I don't know who Pan is, but I feel like she has to be somebody to warrant, because like, and we both come to that horrible realization, because I was just like, there was a lot of ships out there, and they're both kind of like, huh, I wonder who she is. That was definitely one of the defining moments for the night. Um, where we end off is Kato had come, like, he basically, the way he worked was he was working for the three and I think the other two as like the four people with the mercenary groups, and he says he's gonna take us to this place called Hagel, which is basically a mercenary hub where we can request sanctuary. Uh, but like there's going to be a trade involved. But because of my station and my relation to my father and Makoto, like they're going to want something out of me as far as like things go. So Kato's going to walk me through that when we get there. But he also came to find out that Mitsukaru is able to track me specifically. I also found out that, you know, I had also known that they were able to track the helix when it was used. So like we made sure to tell Pan that like the helix was you can't be using that, it'll track you. But Mitsukaru had a mask, a Harlequin mask, some that she got somewhere, and she was using it to specifically track me. So I was like, okay, I need to go to the Harlequin and I need to like sort this out, like see if we can get this to stop. And that's and we had talked for a while. I might have left out some stuff, but I feel like this recap's also really freaking long. Um, we had talked for a good while. Like that was the second half of the session after the fight, was talking, kind of catching Kato up, and then kind of like strategizing what we're gonna do. We're heading to this place called Hagel, and then Emrys is gonna bargain for sanctuary until we can make our point, our drop point to High Castle for to drop Pan off. And do that, which is I think like a day and a half away. But Hagel and where High Castle's drops are close enough where it's not like crazy far away, so that's good. Because we were heading there towards there anyway. We were heading towards I think the High Castle drop, and that was and so where I was put on pause was I was going into a meditative state. Like I had basically hooked up myself up to the medical bay and was getting all the good stuff pumped inside of me because I was messed up. Like it was like one of those ones where after the adrenaline faded, after the power went away, after like the rush of the sensu beat and everything like that, it's just like everything hurts. And I was like, damn, I expected that. Like that was like kind of always the plan. Like just push yourself as far as you go and then deal with the consequences later and hopefully get a chance to rest up. Because like if we don't get our way out of there with the mercenaries or anything like that, like that's where the journey ends. And it's like we just need to push ourselves through and not mess ourselves up too bad, hopefully, in the process. So Kato was recovering, because he, like I said, he had like 4v1'd at some point, and they had like kind of messed him up. Like I don't think Kato is as durable as I am, especially now in my current state. But he's like, you know, like he's got different things, and that's something we had talked about after the fact was the DM and I about like the Kato Emrys like duo and like different like people that they can maybe face and stuff like that, like how they are actually pretty good at fighting up. And that's like I think the DM was saying about like the Quintus fight is like if you take it was like Dakuan, Kato now, and Emrys now versus Quintus, and I was like, oh DM, like I think we might know different. Like I think like I think we might like 10-0 him, like just as far as our like, and then part of that's like player confidence and everything like that. But like I feel like where we are now, it was old Dakuan too. It wasn't like 3 Dakuan. I was like Dakuan at 2, and then Emrys at the 2 he is now, and Kato where he is now. Like I feel like we murdered Quintus 10 times out of 10. Like he doesn't take any wins away from that. Whereas before it was like man, it was like, you know, 2-8 kind of thing where it's like we win 2 of those and he wins 8 because we pulled some stuff off to be able to come out of that fight, and it was just insanely vicious. But yeah, that's where we ended off. Emrys is going into a meditative state to reach or to commune with the Harlequin, which is one of his abilities. And then Kato is resting up from his fight and recovering some. Pan, Saya, and Rohan are helming the ship, and we're already on a course to Hagel, and we're just trying to get there before anyone else catches up to us. But usually it doesn't seem so much like people catch us. It's more so when we stop they catch us. So hopefully we can get our sanctuary there and go from there.